Hello, everybody, and welcome back here to another episode of BSN Network. Today is Wednesday, June 15th. Hopefully, everybody's having a day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Wednesday, June 15th here today. Pumped up. The Yankees got a big win last night, coming off another big sports night last night. Yankees got a big win against the Rays, 2-0. So really fired up about that because it was a great win. It was just an all-around team effort where last night the offense wasn't great. Judge didn't get a hit, which is surprising, but it just shows you're going to have nights where other guys step up, and that was showing last night. Aaron Judge has been the guy all season long. He didn't get a hit last night. Isaiah Connor-Fleffa steps up, so it was great to see. That's something that this team has that other Yankee teams haven't had, where even when your best player might not be on that night, other guys step up, and Isaiah Connor-Fleffa last night stepped up in a big way with 2 hits. Garrett Cole, coming off a rough outing in Minnesota, had an excellent outing last night. And the Yankees continue to win, and win in many different ways. Last night, they won by Fleffa. They won by a couple bad mistakes by Tampa, and their pitching shut down a Tampa offense that a lot of people think can do a lot of damage, and we all know they can do a lot of damage. And it's just wild to see how good this Yankee team is, because this Yankee team was dominated by the Rays last season. Even the year before that, the Rays has been their enemy. They haven't been able to beat them. And now this year, they're beating the Rays, and they're doing it in so many different ways like they've done all season long. So it was great to see. Very good win last night for the Yankees. And the New York Mets as well continue their winning ways. Chris Bassett also had a very good start last night. He went, I think 8 strong innings of 7 strikeouts, no run baseball. I think he had 1 walk mixed in. So a great night for Bassett, good night for Cole. Yankee fans, you got to feel good about that, and Met fans, you got to feel good about that too, because those are 2 pitchers coming off of rough starts on the road. They're back home in their home building, an opportunity for them both to bounce back, and they both did against 2 very good teams in the Brewers and the Rays. So, game 2 for both those series are tonight. Yankees-Rays. Yankees look for the series win, and the Mets also look for the series win tonight. Nasty Nestor on the mound for the Yankees versus Shane McClanahan, I think, is the other guy. So, a little battle of the lefties tonight. Yankees actually saw McClanahan in the 4-game set at the Trop earlier this season. So, and I don't think they hit much off of him. So, looking forward to see if they can bounce back and get Nasty Nestor as well, off of a little bit of a rough start for Nasty Nestor's terms. Still got a 1.96 ERA, still my Cy Young favorite, but he'll be on the mound tonight, so looking forward to that. It's the game 2 of the 3-game set for the Yankees before they head out on the road for Toronto and then Tampa. So that's what's on tap for the Yankees. That's that. And then you got the NHL Stanley Cup tonight. Obviously, you got the Stanley Cup tonight. And then tomorrow night is Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Warriors-Celtics series shifts back to Boston for Game 6 as the Celtics look to force a Game 7. All right, so let's get to the topics for today's podcast. It's going to be a 2-topic show. We're going to start things off with the Avalanche versus the Lightning. I'm going to give you my series preview, similar to what I did with the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. I'm going to give you my series preview for the Avalanche and the Lightning. Get you ready for the series. Get you ready for the Stanley Cup. I think it's going to be a very good series. I could see it going 7 games. I will give you my prediction and the amount of games coming up. But I'm going to get you ready. Keys for both teams, goaltending, all that good stuff. You know the drill. I've done it many times before. Do it for the Super Bowl. Do it for the playoffs. And do it for the World Series. Do it for the finals. And do it for the Stanley Cup. Do it for them all. I'll preview it. Get you ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Game 1 tonight in Denver, Colorado. Avalanche Lightning should be a very good series. We'll start off with that. Then we'll get to the Jets minicamp update. A lot of news coming out of Jets minicamp. A lot of guys spoke yesterday. Mekhi Becton was back. He was doing his own individual drills, but the fact is he was back, and that's really all that matters. All this offseason, I don't know if you want to call it drama, but this offseason, I guess we could call it drama. It wasn't like he was holding out or looking for a new contract or requested a trade. But, you know, how last year ended, you know, kind of maybe a little bit overweight, you know, not taking care of his body to the level that the Jets would have liked him to. You know, him last year kind of coming into training camp a little lazy after his rookie season. Jets, I think, kind of set the tone of, look, you're not going to just get a roster spot on this team. It's going to have to be earned. And I think them, too, bringing back Font, to kind of push him a little bit in terms of, look, like, you're going to, you got to earn your spot here. You're not just going to be given a spot just because you were, was a first-round pick 2 years ago, right? It's a different coaching staff, different offense, different people here. Douglas, obviously, the same. But obviously, Douglas is going to do whatever is best for the team. Even if he drafted the guy, he's going to do whatever is best for the team. So it was good to see him back. There wasn't many close-up pictures of him, so you weren't really able to see how he looked in terms of, muscle and all that stuff. If he lost any weight in the offseason, Jets had kind of a targeted weight they wanted him to be at. So we'll see. But he was back. We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to get to some other stuff, some quotes, and also a little bit about Sauce Gardner and how he got the number 1 jersey. Pretty cool story there with him and DJ Reed. Also, a new Jet cornerback that they got in free agency. So we'll get to that and all that good stuff going on in the mandatory minicamp, which started yesterday. It will continue into today and tomorrow. It's the 14th through the 16th. So that's what's going on there. And we'll finish things off with the New York sports update. Yankees, Mets tonight. And, Avalanche Lightning as well. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final tonight. Denver, Colorado. Looking forward to that. That is at, what is that? Is that called, is it Ball Arena, I think? I know it used to be like Pepsi Center. Now I think it's like Ball Arena. It's always changing. All these arenas, they're changing left and right. It's like one day it's Pepsi Center. The next day it's Little Caesars Arena, which is in the Pistons. I know they have that there. Like, that's why I think it's so cool when stadiums are named after the teams. Like Yankee Stadium, right? That's so basic. Not, TD Ameritrade Park or something like that, or Ball Arena, or it's all these weird sponsors, or, all that stuff. But anyway, all that, gonna get to it today. So, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So, game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals tonight. 8 Eastern, ABC. Avalanche have, obviously, the home ice, so first 2 games will be in Colorado. Games 3 and 4 will be in Tampa. If needed, Game 5 will be back in Denver. Game 6 will be in Tampa. And if needed, a Game 7 will be in Denver, which I hope that happens because you want to see a Game 7. I mean, I guess, I don't know if I really want to hope it happens because I don't really, not that I don't care, but this is not really something, as a fan, when you're not a fan of either team, you're kind of in the boat of, go to 7 games. Let's see the drama. Let's see this. And you can kind of sit back and relax in Game 7 because you don't got a dog in the fight. Now, I am rooting for the Avalanche in this series, and I want the Avalanche to win. Preferably, I would like the Avalanche to sweep because Lightning knocked my team out of the postseason. I thought, when you knock my team out of the postseason, I'm not going to root for you. That's how it is. So I am pulling for the Avalanche this series. And as a Ranger fan, as I sit here, I was doing notes before the podcast of writing down some stats and key guys for each team. And, I'm sitting here, I'm wishing that I'm writing down Igor Shesterkin stats. And it stinks because, they took a 2-0 lead and ended up losing 4 straight. I really wish I was talking about a Rangers Avalanche preview right now, not an Avalanche Lightning, but we're here, Stanley Cup Final, Game 1 tonight. It's still should be a good matchup either way. But obviously both these teams, it's kind of reverse for the Lightning, right? Lightning were the team last series in the Eastern Conference Finals that got all of the rest. Going into the Eastern, they obviously sweeping the Panthers in the second round. Going into the Eastern Conference Finals, they got a ton of rest. For the Rangers, it was a quick turnaround. They played on a Sunday night, Game 7 in Carolina, flew back to New York. Boom, Tuesday they were playing their game. So it was a quick turnaround. It was fast. It was really quick. I think it was actually a Monday. It was the Monday game. I think it was the Memorial Day. I don't know what it was. But either way, then I think they were playing on a Wednesday or whatever. I don't know. But it was the next day. It was the next day they had a day off, then they played. For the Avalanche, it was, they swept and they played. And now for the Lightning, they just got done with a series on Saturday, and boom, here they are playing again on Wednesday. Now, they did have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off, so that's 3 days in a row. That's a lot of time. But the Avalanche have been off for much longer because they ended their series. The Avalanche ended their series back in, what was the exact day? They ended their series June 6th. They won an OT 6-5 against the Oilers. So they won their series. They've been off. This is technically, they've been off for 8 days. They've been off for over a week. Lightning had 9 days off, and you saw how they came out in games 1 and 2. Avalanche had 8 days off. Obviously, today, back in action June 15th, which is 9 days since their last game. So, Avalanche have had a lot of time off. Lightning have had 3 days off. So, 8 days off to 3 days off. Big difference in terms of rest and in terms of possible rustiness coming out in game 1. Now, both these teams, I think it's going to be a very tight series. But when you look at both these teams, they have their one team. It's similar to how the Warriors and the Celtics are. They're two very good teams, but their strengths are very different, right? You have a Lightning team that is good defensively, very good goaltending. You have a Colorado team that's very good defensively, but their goaltending's been up in the air and it hasn't been as you would expect. Is it all to blame on the goaltending? No, but their goaltending's not what Andrei Vasilevskiy brings to the table. And then you have the Lightning, who have a high-powered offense, an Avalanche team that has a high-powered offense. Lightning do too, but I don't know if I would say the Lightning have as high-powered as an offense as the Avalanche do, scoring 8 goals in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, scoring 4 goals the next game, going 4 more and 6 in Game 4. So they've scored a ton of goals this postseason. They've scored a ton of goals. They've beat up on a lot of good teams, and they've kind of cruised through. Lightning have lost 2 games this entire postseason, or the Avalanche, rather. They've lost 2 games this entire postseason. They swept the Predators in the first round. They won in 6 games against the Blues in the second round 4-2, and then they swept the Oilers. So they've only lost 2 games this entire postseason. They played 14 playoff games. So they're well rested. They haven't had to really exert much energy. They played 14 games. I'm going to put that in perspective. 3 rounds, they played 14 games. The Rangers in 2 rounds played 14 games. In 3 rounds, they played 20. So just to put into perspective of how much the Avalanche have had time off, and they've rested, and they're going into this series with a lot of energy, because they just got 8 days off. They're going into this series well rested. They've only played 14 playoff games. They haven't had to go into any deep 7-game series. Their deepest series was a 6-game series, and even that series, it was going to take a lot for the St. Louis Blues to pull a comeback off, because you knew Colorado had the advantage, taking the early series lead. So I look at this series. For the Avalanche, you gotta find a way to get off to a quick start, because we saw what this Lightning team can do. Once they find their rhythm, once they find their groove, it's gonna be really hard to beat them. They're more experienced. They've been in this situation 3 years in a row. They're going for they're going for back to back to back. They're going for the three-peat, which is something in sports we don't see often. So they're going for a really historic achievement here, winning 3 Stanley Cups in a row. Something that you don't see happen every day in any sport. In any sport. Winning 1's hard enough. Winning 2 is even harder. Winning 3 is like out of this world, even crazier. So for the Avalanche, you can't get off to the series start that the Lightning did against the Rangers. You got to find you're at home ice. You can't fall down in a 2-0 series hole. It's a veteran team in the Lightning with very good goaltending, and when they're at home, we saw it against the Rangers. I watched this team 6 games in a row. They were such a better team at home. Even that Game 5 win on the road, I can make the argument that the Rangers were the better team for them most of that game, and the 2 goals that the Lightning scored were just, they scored it, they shot the puck at the right time. Those were 2 shots that 9 times out of 10, Igor makes those saves. On the road, though, at home, though, much more pressure on net. Vasilevskiy was much better. And Vasilevskiy found his rhythm as that series went on against the Rangers. So you're not going to get a cold Andrei Vasilevskiy. This is also a guy that had 3 days off. This is not a guy that was off for 9 days. This is a team that just got off of their series victory against the Rangers on Saturday. Boom, starts preparing Sunday. You're back in action on the road Wednesday. So realistically, they only had about 2 days off because they probably flew in yesterday. So yeah, travel days, travel days usually take up, not the whole day, but you're not able to, probably had a morning skate maybe yesterday and then travel, but you're not able to get as much done on a travel day as you usually do on just a day where you're not traveling at all. So, the Lightning are coming into this, they're much more fresh than they were going into the Rangers series. So for the Avalanche, you're at home, you got to protect home ice. And especially against Vasilevskiy, who's a very good goaltender finding his rhythm. and you got to take advantage when you get them. Because we know what this Lightning team's capable of. Once Vasilevsky finds his groove, it only sometimes could take one goal for you to win. It might only take two. This Avalanche team, and this is why this series is so exciting, because you have an Avalanche team that had their offense has been, they've been the best offensive hockey team in the entire National Hockey League throughout the postseason. Game 5 or Game 4 of the Edmonton series, they came all the way back from down 3-1, scored 4 goals in the third period, and added one more in overtime. And I don't care who they were going up against. I know, Smith, Mike Smith on the Oilers and all that stuff. There was he's not Andre Vasilevsky, but still they're a very high-powered offense. Nathan MacKinnon, Cal McCarr, defensively, very good player. And those two players are gonna be the keys. Cal McCarr and Nathan MacKinnon are good. Those are the two guys that you're going to have to look out for if you're the Avalanche, if you want to win this series, to step up big time. And the Avalanche have won a lot of playoff games. And this is an opportunity for the Avalanche to kind of start a little bit of a dynasty of their own. Because look, what the Lightning have a lot in their favor. They have to kind of break it down. Avalanche they're the better offensive hockey team, right? Lightning have the better goaltending. Defensively, they're both very solid. I think if Avalanche had slightly better goaltending overall as a defense, they would be better. But the fact that the Lightning have Vasilevsky, they're sometimes able to get away with defensive mistakes that other teams wouldn't. Colorado's got to play more of a perfect defensive game to win, because a lot more pucks are going to get past the two goaltenders. Now, Darcy Kemper, they still have not made a decision, but it seems that Darcy Kemper is going to start. And Francois, it seems is going to be the backup. So he's played 6 games this playoffs. Kemper has played 10. Darcy Kemper's goal allowed is 2.65. Francois is 2.86. So as a whole, combined, they have a 2.86 goals allowed per game, which isn't bad, but it's not Andre Vasilevsky good. So that's why, when you talk about the Avalanche, they got to take advantage of their opportunities. And the Avalanche, too, they can't fall down early in the series, like I said. You had 8 days off. You got to find a way to come out firing. You got to come out. Even if the first period is just a feeling out process, you got to come out fast. You can't lose both at home and expect to come back on the road in Tampa and win both there. Because Tampa's the more experienced team. And that's what you saw in the Ranger series. Once they won those 2 games in Tampa, there was no looking back for the Lightning. There was none of it. They won Game 5 and Game 6, and boom, here we stand, Lightning looking for a three-peat. So they are the more experienced team. They've been in this situation a lot more times than the Avalanche have been in. A lot of these guys, this is their first. Nathan MacKinnon, a lot of these guys, this is their first opportunity to shine in these big, big moments. That is the Stanley Cup. So, Avalanche got to get off to a quick start and put pucks past Vasilevsky. Because ultimately, if this series comes down to, a defensive series when it comes down to 1-2 goals per game, Lightning are going to win because they have the advantage in net. And the Lightning, what they got to do is, Vasilevsky, you got to make sure he steps up and does what he does, and that is one of the, best goaltenders in the world. Him and Igor are right up there. And, obviously for that, and also, also got to bring to the table the fact that, you also got to score. You got to score a lot because, this Avalanche team is going to put a lot of pressure on that. They're going to put a lot more pressure on that than the Rangers did, I'll tell you that right now. And guys like McCarr, McKinnon, Rottinen, Landeskog, guys like that are going to need to step up for the Avalanche, especially when it comes to the goal scoring. McKinnon leads the team in 11 goals. He's a star. You look at the 3 elite players in hockey. You got Nathan MacKinnon, you got Connor McDavid, and Austin Matthews. Those are the 3 elite best players in the National Hockey League. So those are going to be the guy that, Nathan MacKinnon's going to need to be that guy that playmakes, passes the puck, shoots, scores. He's going to need to be that guy. You got home ice, Stanley Cup. Home ice in the Stanley Cup's pivotal. Protect home ice, and the Avalanche can win this series. And if your goaltending does just enough, you're going to win this series. And like I said for the Lightning, more experienced. But the Lightning also, Lightning aren't going to have that ability to always come back in this series, like the Rangers, because this is an Avalanche team that's a lot, they're better than the Rangers. They're more talented, right? So for the Lightning, it comes down to, doing the job defensively, scoring enough goals, taking advantage of the weaker goaltending situation in Colorado, and kind of still being the fact that it's up in the air who's going to start. Because, obviously, like I said, throughout the 14 games, Darcy Kuemper's played 10, Francois played 6 of those games, or have put in 6 of those. So it's kind of been up in the air. It hasn't been as consistent. Now, Darcy Kuemper, it looks like he's going to be okay. He got injured or had some sort of I don't know what it was, vision problem or whatever it was in the Edmonton series. He said yesterday to the media he's 100% healthy. He feels good. All signs are pointing towards Darcy Kuemper in net game 1, and he's going to be in net for the series. He's the starter, and Francois is going to be the backup. If anything drastically changes, Francois will go in, Kuemper will be the backup. I don't see why. Now, they have not made it official who's going to start yet. It's still up in the air according to the Avalanche, but all signs are pointing towards Darcy Kuemper net, which is the best option. He's the best option. He's the guy out there that's been the better one throughout the postseason. He's played more games. He's the best option if you are the Avalanche. So I'm going to go ahead and say Darcy Kuemper probably has it. But that's what I'm saying, right? Lightning have the goaltending advantage. So this is why Colorado, it's got to be even more to the point of you got to score goals. Because you see how good this Avalanche offense is. In Game 4 of that series, when the Avalanche went for the sweep, Francois, he played. And because Kuemper was out. He played, he allowed 5 goals. Avalanche scored 6 and 1. That's not going to happen every day. So that's why, if the goalie for the Avalanche, Kuemper, whoever it is, just can step up and make the saves that they need to make, this offense, we know what they're capable of. And that's why this matchup has so much potential to be great. Because you have an elite offense in the Avalanche, and you have a goaltender who, if he keeps up what he's doing, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. So that's, like I said, something's got to give in this series. Something's got to give. Similar to the Warriors in the Celtics series. With the defense of the Celtics and the offense of the Warriors, something's got to give. It's been a very odd series so far. Really, neither team has really shown out their prime ability for either offense or defense. But for this series specifically, the goaltending of the Lightning and the offense of the Avalanche are going to be the big, big, big thing to watch in this series. And the Avalanche have the home ice. The crowd's going to be behind them. You get off to a quick 1-2 goal lead early, get a couple pucks past Vasilevsky. We all know his weakness is that high blocker side. McKinnon, Makar, guys like that can get shots on net from that high left blocker side. You're going to be in a good spot. So, Avalanche Lightning Game 1 tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, ABC. Just to give you the entire series. So, Game 1's tonight. Game 2 will be Saturday, June 18th. Game 3 will be Monday, June 20th. Game 4 would be Wednesday, June 22nd, if needed. Game 5 would be Friday, June 24th. If needed, Game 6 would be Sunday, June 26th. And if needed, Game 7 rather, would be Tuesday, June 28th. So, that's the series schedule. All those games, by the way, on ABC, and you could stream it on ESPN+. So that's that. All right, so now my prediction. Like I said, if you're making a prediction here, if you're gonna put money on, if you're gonna put money on this, or if you're gonna make a prediction or whatever you're gonna do with it. I'm obviously not, I'm not putting money on this series, but whatever you do, if you want to this is my 2 cents, right? You either roll with the Lightning and the experience of being in these situations, because if you're going off of experience, Lightning should win this series. If you're going off of overall talent, offensive firepower, energy, you take the Avalanche. And if you kind of stand in the middle, Well, here you go. I'm going with the Avalanche in this series, okay? And the reason I'm doing this is because, and I know Vasilevsky's such a great goaltender, but when you have an Avalanche offense that includes Nathan MacKinnon, Rantanen, Cal McCarr, who defensively is great on offense and scoring and assisting and playmaking, at the defensive position, he's a guy to look out for as well. And I think the Avalanche's goaltending, especially Darcy Kemper, who's a solid goaltender, just the injuries and kind of the in and out throughout the postseason hasn't quite been the ideal postseason for him. So I'm going to go with the Avalanche in this series. And I got to admit, up to this point, I still don't know whether to put it in 6 or 7 games, because I could see this series going to the distance because of what both these teams are so good at certain things. And they're not good at both the same thing. Like, Avalanche are so good offensively. Lightning's good offensively, but not what the Avalanche are. Lightning is very good goaltending. The Avalanche's goaltending, when healthy, can be good, but it's not Andrei Vasilevsky, right? Who's most likely going to be a future Hall of Famer one day, and is going to have his name in the National Hockey Hall of Fame. So I'm going to roll with the Avalanche in this series. Home ice, young team, quick, fast, high energy, exciting, over the experienced team going for the three-peat. Now, this could be a little bit of a biased pick because I want to see the Avalanche do this, and I also think, Lightning have won back-to-back. And I know I'm all for history and all that, but if the Avalanche win it, and I do think this, and that's, I hope this dynasty doesn't turn into be too good, because obviously I want the Rangers to turn into a dynasty and win many cups. But this could be the start of something special for the Avalanche. And this is the future of hockey right here. This is an Avalanche team that have built towards this point. They're here now. Now it's time to get the job done. So I'm going with the Avalanche. And you know what? For the heck of it, I'm going to say the series goes the distance. Give me the Avalanche in 7 games. And we're going to be watching hockey all the way until June 28th. Yes, almost into July. So give me the Avalanche. Not really much of a, I should say, a thought through thorough process of how many games. I'm going to roll with the 7 games because as a fan of neither of these teams, I'm obviously rooting for the Avalanche, but I'm a Ranger fan. And as a fan of any sport, if you don't have a dog in the fight, Game 7s are, you kind of just sit back and relax and watch it unfold. As a fan in Game 7s, you're a mess the day of the game in terms of nerves and excitement, and you're like 10 hours, it's an 8 o'clock game, and it's noon, and you're like, and you're turning on the television to see if the game's on already. That's how nerve-wracking it can be. So I'm gonna go 7 games here. I'm gonna take the Avalanche in 7. Home ice, young team, high energy, fun to watch, exciting offensively, score a lot of team that scores a ton of goals. I don't think they're gonna put up 6 on Vasilevsky every night, but I think they can definitely do some damage. So give me the Avalanche in 7 games. And the Avalanche, I'm going to say, win the Stanley Cup and snap this back-to-back streak of the Tampa Bay Lightning as they go for their 3rd straight. And I'm going to roll with the Avalanche here for their first Stanley Cup since 2001. So give me the Avalanche in 7 games. Alright, so that's what I got for that. So that's what I got for that. Game 1, like I said, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, ABC, Denver, Colorado, Ball Arena, whatever you call it, whatever it is. That's tonight, 8 Eastern, so looking forward to that. Alright, so let's get to the New York Jets minicamp update. Yes, you have heard that right, June 14th. Obviously, yesterday, minicamp started, mandatory minicamp. So it's interesting to hear all the news across the league of who's showing up, who's not. Deshaun Watson actually spoke to the media for the first time publicly yesterday since all the accusations have come out of the sexual misconduct. I'm not talking about that, obviously, today, but I am talking about the Jets minicamp. Mekhi Becton's back. Zach Wilson did well yesterday. I also kind of want to talk about the narratives around Zach Wilson in terms of what he's doing in minicamp and OTAs. The days that he the days that he has good days and the bad days, and why they're just so blown out of proportion because it's only June. So we're going to get to that. A lot to get caught up on with the New York Jets and their minicamp. We'll get to that much more coming up next. All right, so welcome you back here up at the BSN Network program here today, Wednesday, June 15th. Yankees, Mets tonight. Yankees against the Rays and the Mets against the Brewers. And we're going to get a little bit of football talk. So we got a little hockey in the first topic. We're going to get to a little bit of football talk here with the New York Jets. So obviously mandatory minicamp. He started yesterday for the Jets. Many players spoke to the media. Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, Jeff Ulbrich. Defensive coordinator, obviously, Lincoln Tomlinson, who was wearing an excellent shirt. His shirt said, "Lift weights, pet dogs," or something like that. So I was watching all the interviews and stuff, and, kind of was just listening to him. I didn't, dissect the interviews or anything. Was just listening to him, seeing what the players got. Like I said, it's June, right? It's mandatory minicamp. It's just guys, putting in some work, knocking off the rust from the off season and getting ready for, as we get closer and closer to training camp, which will start in July. I don't know the exact date training camp starts, but it's later July and then into August and then obviously into the season. So that's obviously still a little bit down the road, but mandatory minicamp began yesterday, and a lot of storylines come out of the Jets. And there's obviously always a lot of storylines in the NFL because you always have the early reactions of certain guys not showing up to minicamp. And then you wonder if that's going to roll over into training camp, and then if that's going to roll over into the season, which it very well can be. We've seen it before. This time last year, we were talking about Aaron Rodgers, it seemed, every day because of the shenanigans around him not reporting to training camp, not reporting to minicamp, training camp, and then we got closer and closer to season. It was like, all right, is this guy even going to play? Jordan Love was taking first-team reps. It was like, what's going on here? Rodgers is like, what's going on here? So it's funny. But obviously a lot of stories yesterday come out of the New York Jets, and they were all good stories. I mean, they're not bad. It wasn't like, oh, this guy didn't show up, or, this guy, this guy didn't show up, or, this guy's holding out, or whatever it is. Yesterday, the biggest storyline, there was a couple of them. Becton, we'll get to Zach Wilson's performance. I also just want to talk about Zach Wilson in general because I think it needs to be kind of set that, look, it's June. He's throwing footballs in June, right? This is not August. This is not a week before the season that we're seeing him maybe struggle a little bit. It's June. He's working with a couple new receivers. It's not something to be concerned about. And when he has a good day, don't overreact to it acting like he's going to be a Hall of Famer either. Because Zach Wilson, from what I'm hearing, had a very good day yesterday in terms of throwing. The 2-minute drills, the 7-on-7s, did well. Connected with a lot of his receivers, and had a lot of, good, especially when, the defense had a little bit of pressure. Look, you also got to realize this is even live. Like, this is no pads and stuff. This isn't 11-on-11, full-on pads, going 100 miles an hour, or 100%. This is more like 65, 70%. Just knocking off the rust from the offseason. So I just want to make that clear. That when Zach Wilson has a good day at training camp, or a good day at minicamp, that's great. Good. But, we also don't want to overreact to that because there's a lot of people that when he has a good day, people are like, oh, he's winning the MVP. That doesn't necessarily mean that. But the same thing goes the other way. When he has a bad day, it doesn't mean to trade him or get rid of him. It's June. It's minicamp. There's still a lot of off-season left in terms of knocking the rust off and truly getting ready for week 1 against the Ravens. So that is just what I'm trying to say. Because I think there's a lot of people, and the media too, and I understand the beat reporters, it's their job. And I follow Connor Hughes. I think he's the best one out of all of them. Him and Brian Costello, I think, do the best job. In terms of honest reporting, not favoring it to one side or the other, in terms of favoring it to the Jet side or favoring it to the other side. Look, beat reporters are going to be critical at times. They're the ones asking the questions. They're the ones trying to create storylines. It is what it is. So you're going to have some beat reporters out there, that say, oh, Wilson looked really bad today. Or Wilson, they're also going to be beat reporters that say Wilson looked great today, and they're going to create an article with it, so then Jet fans can all of a sudden get all excited when the day before they were acting like the season was over. It's June 15th, okay? OTAs just ended, mandatory minicamps beginning now. We haven't even hit training camp. If we're in August, in August, if we're still, if you still get the, if you're still seeing the people reporting about Wilson and fans at training camp are seeing Wilson still struggle, then there's a little bit of time to be concerned. In the beginning of the season, if Wilson struggles at the beginning of the season, okay, then that's reason to be concerned. And same thing with the success. He had success yesterday. He threw well. That's what you have to expect as a Jet fan with him being the number 2 overall pick, and that's what you have to hope. But even that, too, with the success, right? We don't really will know how good he is until the regular season. If he starts having success in the regular season, that's when you could really start to get pumped up and feel good about it. And that's really what's all going to start to transpire during training camp, because that's when people actually can go. You'll start to speed it up a little bit. Look, like it's training camp. Training camp's right before the first practice week, right? That's right there. Like after training camp, it's the regular season. So that's what I'm trying to say. But obviously one of the big stories was Mekhi Becton returning, and that was good to see. He obviously wasn't there for OTAs. It was kind of weird. He wasn't really in contact. The Jets and Mekhi Becton, were kind of not, they ended the season with some friction. And I think, with the injury week 1, I think even going all the way back to last year in training camp where you had all those practices where he was getting dominated by Carl Lawson, obviously prior to him tearing his Achilles, which you hope that he comes back healthy. He's obviously in minicamp and OTAs and all that stuff. You hope that he can come back better than ever and actually better than maybe he was prior. But it goes all the way back to training camp with Becton where he was getting dominated by Lawson, just wasn't looking like he was as quick off the line. And everyone kind of, put it to, look, like, Carl Lawson's great. Becton's, a lot of people were trying to, and I was too. A lot of people just assumed, look, it was iron sharpening iron. Carl Lawson's a very good edge rusher. There's going to be times where he blows past Becton. There's also going to be times Becton beats him and, makes a good block on him and creates a hole and all that. But it seemed like last year, more times than not during training camp, Becton was just getting beat. And it was, exciting for the sake of Carl Lawson, but it was kind of worrisome for the sake of Becton and how was he going to be, was he, why is he all of a sudden getting destroyed like this? And then he gets, hurts his knee in the first week against the Panthers, which obviously stinks. It's a blow to our offensive line coming off a very promising and good rookie year. And then you have a guy like George Font who stepped up and had a very good year last year. Morgan Moses, who's no longer obviously on the team, but he had a very solid year last year as well. And, you look at those two guys, both those guys stepped up, and at first it was a 6 to 8 week injury. So you're expecting, okay, Becton will probably come back week 9, week 10, week 11. And what first went from being 6 to 8 weeks turned into a season-ending injury, and he never came back. And it was weird because the Jets never really spoke on it. They kind of just said, look, he's still progressing, he's still working towards it, and all that stuff. So you wonder, if there was more to the injury. He did end up getting surgery on it, obviously, during the year, but you wonder if there was more to the injury or if it was just the fact that George Font was playing much better and you felt, okay, we're rolling them out. You wonder really what it was, or if it could have been the training camp struggles and the fact that maybe he came in a little overweight, because Saleh did say at times that, Becton came in a little overweight. He did not come in what they wanted him to be. And he said at the end of his rookie year, he said he wants to trim down a little bit. He wants to get a little bit more, muscle and a little bit less, body fat, I guess if you want to call it. And he wanted to become more of a, he wanted to be a little bit quicker. And kind of went into training camp, and it didn't really seem like that was the case. So you go into the offseason, and you obviously had a lot of these, issues where, he's posting workout videos and all that stuff, but, the Jets and Becton still kind of seemed distant, and you wondered, what they were going to do in the draft. Were they going to take Evan Neal or, Kwanu or somebody like that, to maybe, put in pressure? And I think, when Saleh said, too, Saleh ended up coming out in his interview and said, look, it's going to be an open competition with Becton. And I love that because Becton's got to realize your job's got to be earned here. It's not going to be given to you. It's got to be earned. And I think you got to realize that, and I think Becton started to realize that And hopefully that trend, was the key to all the off-season workouts, and hopefully him trimming down his weight and getting to where the Jets want him to be. So yesterday, seeing that minicamp was very, very, very good to see, and it was good because, obviously coming off of he did some conditioning and stuff on his own. He wasn't with the team. His first day back, coming off of knee surgery. Jets haven't seen him in months. You're gonna want to see how he comes in first of all in terms of health, weight, and size, and all that. And you also want to see how his knee is and if he's okay. Now, according to many of the beat reporters, specifically Rich Cimini, who I'm not a huge fan of, but he did say that there was no knee brace on his knee, there was no sleeve, there was nothing that seemed to be he was wearing on the knee that he injured last season. So the biggest thing with Becton here is it's going to come down to training camp, because I would tell you right now, I don't think Becton's job is safe. I'm not saying that his job is lost and he's got to earn it back. I would say that Becton probably has the inside. I don't know how you want to word it. Maybe he has the inside lane. I don't know where you want to word it, but either way, I would say that Becton probably has might have the advantage right now. I don't know. He might not. He might not. I don't really know how. Where you want to go with that, but it is going to come down to training camp. It's going to come down to Becton coming into training camp healthy, physically ready, weight is okay, in check, and obviously comes into training camp and performs well, because your weight can be great. If you can't perform, you're not going to play. So if he comes in, performs well, and earns his spot, he'll be right back in this position. But, it definitely, it is good to see him back, because we know what Becton can do. You saw him in Louisville. Then you saw him his rookie year, was one of the lone bright spots on that 2-14 Jets team, specifically the offense. That offense was terrible. He was one of the lone bright spots on that offense, specifically the offensive line as well. And you just hope that he can be ready to go, because him and Elijah Vera Tucker on that left side, I know Tucker might get moved, obviously, to guard with Laken Tomlinson, but there's still so much future with those two guys. And that's why you just got to hope that everything's okay, everything's in check, his weight's all right, Jets like where he's at. And minicamp's great. He showed up. He's got to maintain, if his weight's in check and he looks good, if he maintains that and goes into training camp, he'll be starting week 1. So it's good to kind of see now that he's back, right? He wasn't much involved with the Jets in the offseason. They kind of, I think both, a little bit of friction at the end of the year. And I think the injury, maybe his weight could have been a little bit of it, why he didn't come back as soon. Jets, I think Saleh seemed a little frustrated of how things were playing out with him. So it was good to see that he was back yesterday, because I think, that's big, right? He came back, obviously it wasn't with the team much. He was doing stuff on his own, rightfully so. But the biggest thing is going to come down to training camp. So first step in the right direction for Becton. And I hope it works out, because if it doesn't work out, that's a tough draft pick that you just blew on a guy that only played one full season with you guys. So hopefully it works out, and his injury history and that knee issue is behind him. Also, Jeff Ulbrich said something, and I thought it was a pretty good thing, and I'm going to actually pull it up here, about Quincy Williams, who obviously we got last season, who got released from the Jaguars. Quincy Williams is Quinnen Williams' brother. But those were guys, those are the guys that one of the guys that the Jets brought in as kind of just a depth piece at first, and made his mark. Now, I liked Quincy Williams a lot last year. I thought he was a boom-bust player at times in terms of his tackling ability. He would make some very big tackles, but just the way he went at you in terms of his quickness, a lot of guys did get around him quickly, because he's kind of he's a quick guy. He's going to run at you. He's not going to chop his feet and try to he's going to run at you, try to lay a big hit on you. He did say at his end of the year press conference last season, his closing interviews and stuff, he did say that his goal was to work more on that open field tackling. Like, when he meets you one-on-one, he's going to crush you. But when a running back has space, Quincy Williams wasn't always maybe the best option to be out there instead of like a corner or somebody like that who can really kind of match up with the guy. But I liked him a lot. He created a little bit of energy. It was quick off the line. Was a good linebacker. Like he put a little bit of jolt into the Jets defense. A little bit of quickness and a little bit of energy. He's still a young player. And Jeff Ulbrich said yesterday that, and they didn't even ask him this question at first. He just kind of said this on his own. And this is what he said. So Olbrich says that Quincy Williams is finding his voice and stepping up as a leader this year. He brought this up himself. Good question wasn't about Williams. Good sign. This is what Connor Hughes tweeted. So this was something that this is something that you got to be very, 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 got to be excited about. Like I said, it's minicamp in June. But to see that he's taking over a leadership role, see that he's learning the game, becoming more experienced, obviously putting a lot of work in the offseason. A lot of young defense, he's kind of taking over that leadership role with guys like Quinn and his brother, guys like, CJ Mosley, obviously, JFM. Those are kind of leaders on the defense. Those are the guys that are going to step up and be that voice, going to be those leaders out there on the field and obviously in the locker room as well. And he wasn't even asked the question. Sometimes coaches get asked the question, they're going to speak highly of players, but Olbrich went into Quincy Williams in himself, and I watched the interview. I just wanted to get the exact quote here. He went into it himself about him, becoming kind of that leader, becoming kind of that guy that last season, maybe wasn't as much of a leader, was still trying to get a feel for the team and all that stuff. Now this year, he's taken over that leadership role, especially for a young roster. So that was good to see as well. So those are the big news, really, coming out of the Jets. And, for the defense, too. This was a defense who was bad last year. They're going to need everything they need. They're going to need all guys to step up and everybody to step up in that leadership role, as many as they can, because it's a young defense, especially in that secondary, too. So you're definitely going to need those leaders on that team that are going to be vocal and, are going to be those guys that step up in big situations. So that was good to see. So those, like I said, were your big news. Zach Wilson stuff, he looked good yesterday, threw well. That's what they're saying. Probably they say his best day even overall, even going back to OTAs. But the biggest thing is going to be training camp and into the season. That's really going to be the biggest thing. I think the overreactions, if he has a bad day, are ridiculous. And if he has a good day, that's great. But let's continue that as well. So day 2 is today. And then tomorrow will be, I believe, the last day of minicamp. It's usually short. It's usually only like a quick 3-day thing. And then one more thing. It was pretty cool. Sauce Gardner paid. So Sauce Gardner paid DJ Reed $50,000 for the number 1 jersey. So Sauce obviously wore number 1 in college at Cincinnati, and he gave $50K to DJ Reed for him to get number 1. So we got number 1, and that's pretty cool. So that was the only thing that I wanted to mention about that. It's Sauce Gardner, obviously. Hopefully, future number 1 corner for us, and hopefully a guy that makes a big impact for many years to come, and I definitely think he will. So that's what I got for day 1 of minicamp, and day 2 is today. Salah's interview actually is taking place right now, so I'll have to watch that after this and see what he's got to say. All right, so let's finish off this podcast today on this Wednesday, middle of the week, halfway to the weekend. All right, so we're gonna start things off here with the with hockey. Like I said, game 1 tonight. Avalanche, Lightning, 8 p.m. Eastern. Over/under set at 6. So that's tonight. All right, so let's get to fantasy MLB, then fantasy baseball. You got the Marlins, Phillies today. White Sox, Tigers. Astros, Rangers, Reds, Diamondbacks, Royals, Giants, Twins, Mariners, Braves, Nationals, Blue Jays, Orioles, Red Sox, A's, Pirates, Cardinals, Padres, Reds, Guardians, Rockies, and the Angels, Dodgers. Mets, Brewers tonight, game 2 of a 3-game set. Mets are 41-22. Brewers are 34-29. Brewers have Corbin Burns on the mound. He's 3-4 with a 2.48 ERA, and the Mets have David Peterson on the mound. He's 3-0 with an exact ERA right at 3. Over/under set at 7.5. And tonight's game goes on 7:10 p.m. Eastern. You can find this on FS1. And as for the Yankees, tonight, Yankees come into this game 45-16. Rays come into tonight's game 35-26. Yankees looking for the series win as well. Tonight's game goes on 7:05 p.m. Eastern on Shane McClanahan will take them out for the Rays. He's 7-2 with a 1.87 ERA. And the Yankees got Nasty Nestor on the mound. He's 5-2 with a 1.96 ERA. Over/under set at 7. So 2 pitchers with an ERA below 2. Very good pitching matchup there. Something to look forward to. All right, as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 140-73. And today I've got going the usual lineup. I'm going to put in Christian Vasquez because JT Realmuto's out. So I have Vasquez, Gurriel, Luis Arraez, Bregman, Correa, Adames, Moncada, Harper, Judge, Gurriel, Blackman, Walsh, Vaughn. And my pitchers are Berrios and Gibson. By the way, Segura got moved to the 60-day IL. So Phillies transferred Segura finger from the 10-day IL to the 60-day IL on Tuesday. Todd Zolecki of the MLB.com reports. I'm probably gonna put in Gleyber Torres over Willy Adames. Probably will do that if Gleyber starts today, because Torres had 3 points yesterday on my bench. Adames had -1, and I think Torres is having a much better season, obviously. So, and as for my other league, I've got Gurriel, Merrifield, Witt, Bichette, LeMahieu, Bregman, Soto, who's day-to-day. I'll read you on that. Springer, Blackman, Walsh, Arraez, Hernandez. And I've got Jose Berrios on the mound. That's the only guy I got. And I'm currently losing in this league, 125-45. Realmuto's out. I don't have a backup catcher. Soto's day-to-day. He looks like he will be back in the lineup, though, for today's game. And like I said, Berrios and Gibson in my other league. So Gibson's got a day game, so hopefully he gets me some points early on to get me off to a lead there in my matchup. All right, so that will do it for the podcast here today. Obviously, game 1 tonight, so that should be good. Looking forward to that. And Yankees Rays tonight as well, 7:05 Eastern. On Yes Network. And that will do it for today's podcast. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.